once again doing a lovely little deck profile. I did say I was probably going to do another one tonight, and well, I decided to do it. So this one is on Cloud X Soldier. This is a deck I've been having a lot of fun with, and it is very Voltron-y. Like, you want to put a bunch of equipment on him because his ability, it's the precon one. He has the ability of haste. When he enters, put any equipment that's on the battlefield onto him, but only one of them. So it can cheat an equipment cost for one artifact, and it also says when it attacks, draw a card for every attacking creature that has an equipment on it that you control, and then if he has 7 or more power, create 2 treasures. Now, because he cares so much about equipment, we're actually going to do this deck profile slightly differently than I normally do. So normally I do creatures, then sorceries, instants, enchantments, artifacts, blah blah blah. The way I'm doing it is I'm immediately going into artifacts because, well, it's the main meat of the deck. So we're going to go through the quick obvious ones, which is Sol Ring and an Arcane Signet because mana ramp. Then we're going to go straight into some equipment. Immediately Buster Sword. Now, I could have put this later in the deck profile to fit in better with something that themes with it a bit better. However, it being the Buster Sword and it being Cloud, it just makes sense for it to be the very first equipment I talk about. Then we go into the equipments that will immediately put him to over 7 power if you play it on him, so he can immediately get the treasure tokens. We have Erethan Perwin that basically immediately gives him +X equal to the amount of life I have. So, you know, early game, he's already like a 20/20 odd. That allows him to get me some treasure tokens. Then we have Excalibur, which gives him +10/+10 in vigilance, so he goes up to 14, definitely more than 7. Colossus Hammer, which takes him up to a 14/14 again, and he loses flying. Once again, it's a lovely way of just saying, hey, he's now got more than 7, let's get treasures. We then have Wrecking Ball Arm that gives it a base power and toughness 7/7, so immediately puts him to the correct number for the treasures, and he also cannot be blocked by power 2 or less. We then have a Black Blade Reforged, which gives us +1/+1 for all our lands, so by the time we have enough mana to cast our commander, this will be enough to get him up to to 7 odd. Then we go into ones that might not immediately do it, but will still do it eventually. Nettle Cyst it creates a germ and equips itself to the germ. Obviously, you can just immediately put it on something else. It has equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. So, you know, within 2 or 3 enchantments or equipments, you can straight up just get him to the correct play. Then we have Power Fist. You would have to swing with him first because when he deals damage, he will put that many +1/+1s on him, and he'll have Trample. So these are the ones that help get us to the threshold of treasure tokens. Next we go into the ones that help with combat, which is Genji Glove, which gives us a double strike, and Brotherhood Regalia, which gives our creature unblockable and ward. Now the fun fact is because of ward, that immediately gets us into our next section, which is the artifacts that protect him. We will have Psychic Paper that gives him ward and unblockable, and he changes his name and type, so he is Colossal Dreadmaw the Coward. We then have Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots, gives it haste and either Shroud on Lightning Greaves or Hexproof on the Swifties. We then go into more protection in the form of Dark Steel Plate, giving it indestructible. We then have +2/+2 in Hexproof. The Hexproof is only if it's on a legendary. We have Mithril Coat, which can flash in and immediately equip and gives like indestructible. Then we have the Silver Shroud costume that can flash in and immediately equip, but then give it a Shroud, and is just permanently unblockable. Okay, very nice. Next we'll go into the ones that ramp us a little bit, which is Sword of the Animist, which is in the precon. Very nice precon card. Whenever it attacks, we get a basic land from our deck. Then we have Sword of Hearth and Home that does the same, but also flickers and gives us +2/+2, and gives us cannot be blocked by green or white essentially. Very nice. Then we have ourselves a Trailblazer Boots to help us connect our damage if they have a non-basic. Then we have the card draw ones, which is Mask of Memory. You draw 2 cards and then discard a card on combat damage. And a Pip-Boy that can make us draw a card and discard a card, put a 1/1 counter on the creature, or untap up to 2 target lands whenever he attacks. Next we all go into Mjolnir, the Stormhammer, which just gives like a stun counter and deals damage to that opponent equal to the amount of attack creatures they have whenever he swings. We have ourselves a Conformer Shuriken that will tap 1 without a stun counter, but then we get +1/+1 equal to the difference of power. Then we have one of my favourite ones and the most recent card that was added, as in fire, like set wise, not because it was the most recent card I physically added, that comes later, but the Dominion Bracelet. Cloud absolutely gets big enough to Mind Slayer somebody. We then go for one of the best cards in the deck, which is Helm of the Host, because not only does it help with Cloud or other creatures that are in the deck, but it also goes infinite with a creature in the deck. We'll get into that later, and because we're going to get into that later, I'm going to put it over there as a reminder. We then have Assault Suit, which stops the sacrificing if our opponent has like a Blasphemous Edict. It also gives our commander +2/+2, and we can force my opponents to give other people Cloud commander damage for the sweet price of you getting the card draw and the treasure. Then we go into the last equipment, which is in my opinion my favourite, Masterwork of Ingenuity. It becomes any of the equipment we already have out. Obviously as long as it's not legendary, because if it's legendary it goes there, dead. Next we're going to go into the non-artifact stuff, which is the auras. We have All That Glitters, just, you know, does what that equipment earlier does, which is equal to the amount of artifacts and enchantments we've got. We have Grim Reaper's Sprint, which allows us to get an extra combat. I do apologise, the light is directly above the table for that card. Let's see, All That Glitters is that one. Then we have a Bear Umbra, which untaps our lands whenever we, is it attack or deal combat? Whenever we attack, we untap all our lands. And it has totem armor, so if you go to destroy my commander, I can just unequip this and put it to the graveyard instead. That's it for the auras. However, we do have a couple more enchantments. We have Captain America's Aid, aka Sigarda's Aid. So if we can play auras and enchant equipments at flash speed. And if we do play an equipment, it immediately equips to a creature. So, very nice. And then we have Reconnaissance, because we can untap Cloud, because his triggers for the card draw and the treasure are attack triggers rather than combat damage triggers, so we can just take him out of combat if we know he's not going to get through. Next we're going to start going into the creatures. First creatures we're going to get into are the 2 other Clouds. We have Midgar Mercenary to search for any equipment, and then if equipment would trigger, or he would trigger, it triggers twice. So Sword of the Animist gets 2 basic lands, etc, etc. We then have Cloud Planet's Champion, which basically says he has indestructible whenever he's equipped on your turn, and he has equip cost 2 less to equip to him. Very nice boy. Next we're going to go into the 3 protections, which is Zac Flair, Codsworth Happy Helper, and Bastion Protector. All 3 of these protect the commander. However, this one can protect any other creature if we have another creature that has stuff. So this is +2/+2 and indestructible on the Bastion. It is Ward 2 on the Codsworth, while he also helps us pay for the enchantments and auras, and can equip 1 for free once per turn. He can actually even move an aura from one creature to another, which is kind of nice sometimes. Zac Flair has a 1/1 counter on it, and we can pay 1 to sack him, Entire creature gets indestructible until end of turn, and any 1/1 counters on him would go on to that other creature. And then we do have one more bit of protection, technically, which is Bronze Guardian, which gives all of our artifacts Ward 2, which protects our equipments if we need it. Next, we're going to go into other creatures. We have ourselves a Dogmeat, because one of the ways I built this deck was I grabbed the Dogmeat precon I already had, I bought a Cloud precon, and I just sort of mashed them together, and then I've added stuff since. Then we have, remember when I said about Helm of the Host being an infinite? Well, it's because I run Godo Bandit Warlord. So when he enters the battlefield, we grab any equipment in our deck and just immediately take it out. And then when he deals combat damage, if it's the first time he himself has done combat damage that turn, we untap him and we go, right, let's have another combat. And it does it for every combat, doesn't matter if it's the first combat or the 30th. With Helm of the Host, you make another copy of him every combat step, you have infinite combat steps. It's very, very nice. Next we have Pure Steel Paladin. He basically just helps us equip equipments for free, but also we will draw a card every time we play an equipment, so it's just a nice card draw as well. Tifa, if we have a creature that's 7 power or more, we get an additional combat when we swing. And if we swing at multiple opponents, we do get more power on creatures, so it makes it easier to get to the 7 power. However, I find with those sort of cards you have to plan that it's going to be a 1v1 anyway, because eventually it will be a 1v1. We then have Sid Fearless Pilot, or Free Flyer Pilot, basically just because he makes our equipment cheaper, but also you can pay 2 to tap him to grab an enchantment from equipment from your graveyard and put it back to your hand. So if an opponent does go, actually I really don't like your Helm of the Host, I'm going to destroy that, you can go, okay, well pay 2, I'm going to get it back. We then have Armory Automaton. Basically as soon as it enters, it grabs every equipment and sucks it onto it if it likes, or up to however many you like, and the same when he attacks. Very nice. He could also, he's, in my opinion, outside of commander damage, he is the second person I put a load of equipment on, because Cloud does tend to be a bit of a lightning rod. We then have Heliotrooper, which has flying. Whenever it attacks, it gives flying to something else, and if you're going to equip to this, it costs 2 less. Again, another card you can just go straight to if need be. And then last one, creature wise, we have Big Horner Rancher, which basically just says tap it for green for equal to the highest power of creatures you control, or you can sacrifice it to gain life equal to the highest toughness. Personally, I use him as a mana dork. So that's it for the creatures. We now go into the sorceries. Steel Shaper's Gift, we want to obviously search some of our equipment. Then for ramp, we run the Rampant Growth and the Nature's Law and the Cultivate. We could run the Farseek and the free visits, but I feel like 3 is enough, with the fact that we also have 2 equipment that do it as well. We then also have Vandal Blast to destroy our opponent's equipment, or their artifacts, whatever have you. Then we also have the Blasphemous Act as mass creature removal, which sometimes doesn't affect us because how big Cloud gets. We then have Vanquish the Horde, which destroys all creatures, which again, we sometimes give them indestructible, we're not that fussed. We then have Inventory Management, that basically says, hey, I've got 10 equipment, I cast Cloud this turn, I was only able to put 1 on him, so I'm going to pay 2 mana and equip everything to him. We then have Dispatch, which goes, hey, there's at least 3 artifacts, let's exile Psych, if not let's tap it so we can get through for damage anyway. We have Path to Exile, that just outright exiles. Then we're going to go into Protection. We have Ultimate Magic Holy, which gives Psych indestructible, or if you foretell it, you also prevent all damage to yourself that turn. We have Heroic Intervention, just get everything indestructible. Then we're going to go into the one and only Planeswalker. As you can see, there is no Mycosynth Lattice, so this isn't for a lock. But we do run the Khan. The reason we run the Khan is because of the +1 ability. Oh no, for the -2 ability, sorry. Where you just go, right, you just farewelled me and got rid of all of my equipment. I'm going to cast this. I'm going to -2 him, and I'm going to grab the best equipment that you just got rid of. It's basically when your equipment gets exiled, he's a way of getting it back. You don't have to run it. I run it because in my local game store, at least, there's quite a bit of exiling artifacts. Because obviously, if you don't, I can retrieve it anyway. So I ended up getting a Khan for the deck just for that reason. Now we're going to get into the lands. So we're going to go with a command tower because obviously it's a commander deck. Exotic Orchard again because it's a commander deck. Next we have an Inventor's Fair because as you saw there was a lot of artifacts, so we're going to gain a lot of life potentially, or we can use it as a searcher for basically this alone with like 3 artifacts and a couple of mana. You can sack this to fix your mana colors and whatnot, so it's not too bad because you can get Sword of the Animus, etc. Or you can even search for a creature that you need to be able to equip one that you already have out because there's artifact creatures. Next we have a Rogue's Passage. Unblockable is sexy. We have a Buried Ruin. We sack it to grab an artifact back to our hand from the graveyard. Bonder's Enclave. If we have 4 power or greater, our commander's base power is 4. We can draw a card for 4 mana. Well, technically 3 mana, but you have to tap it as well. Spire of Industry. If you have an artifact, pay 1 for a command tower. Temple of the False God. I mean, with the amount of ramp you're doing, it actually gets turned on more often than it's turned off, thankfully. We're going to the Fetches of Evolving, Terramorphic, and Ash Barrens. Mana fixing, while also making sure you got land, is quite nice. We then run the Enters Tapped Unless. Enters Tapped Unless you control 2 or more basic lands is obviously Canopy Vista and Cinderglade. And then for the unless you control a specific type of land, like for example forest or plains in Sunpetal Grove, mountain or forest in Rootbound Crag, or Clifftop Retreat for mountain or plains. Then we have unless you reveal. We have Fortified Village for a green and a white because you have to reveal a forest or a plains. Game Trail, you have to reveal a mountain or a forest. And Fury Calm Snarl if you reveal a mountain or a plains. Then we have 1 Shockland because I had it spare because I bought the full art for another deck. We have a Stomping Ground, pay 2 otherwise it comes in tapped. We then have the lands that always enter tapped. We have Path of Ancestry and Jungle Shrine, basically 2 command towers that enter tapped. Then we have the 3 temples, aka the Scrylands, which is Temple of Abaddon, Temple of Triumph, and Temple of Plenty. Then we have the basics, which we have 4 of each, and I've also done it in such a way. So we've got plains. So we've got the Final Fantasy plains, we've got the Fallout plains, we've got the Streets of New Capenna plains, and we've got the Duskmourn plains. Then we have the Final Fantasy forest, the Streets of New Capenna forest, the Fallout forest, and the Duskmourn forest. We have the Final Fantasy mountain, the Streets of New Capenna mountain, the Duskmourn mountain, and the Fallout mountain. That's what it's nice to have it somewhat thematic. And most of the deck is colourless, so it doesn't matter if there's a specific ratio of them. Obviously you prefer to have a bit more white than red or green in this deck, because a lot of the non-artifact cards are white. But the ramp is green, so do with that as you will. And that's it. That's the end of the deck profile. Unlike the last one, there's not going to be a test hand because this is more of a you have to interact with your opponent because you're doing a lot of damage, drawing cards, blah blah blah. So with that, I will leave you adieu. Double check the description for the deck list. And the 3rd deck is not going to be done tonight because I'm tired. Tomorrow we will do the 3rd deck, which is very budget but also very, very annoying and toxic. So look forward to that one. With that, I will say adieu. Ta-ta for now.